You're gonna create like a montage, I bet.
I'm really sorry that I'm eating right now, but I should have done this earlier. But I was reading I'm reading this really great book. So I had to keep reading. And I didn't eat.
Why don't you
tell
us about the book?
Well, it's called the Bible. No, actually, well, yes, that is true also. So I read more in there because sometimes those stories are so good. I'm like, what? But also,
people got to know this stuff. It's got to be like an HBO series.
It was a really good story. Anyway, and then I'm reading this other book that is called 4,000 Weeks. And it's a pretty heady book, but it's like really, really great. And every once in a while, it will start to stop because you can hear that. It will start to like I don't know, like the author changes his voice a little bit and it won't be as heady. And then you can read it really fast, or like he'll be telling a story that's not as like philosophical or something. So you can just kind of read it faster. And that's what was happening. So then I kept reading. So I never ate. And I'm so starving.
What is standing out the most to you in this book so far?
That's a hard question.
Because when I read a book, I'm like on chapter 3, so I'm very early on. It's phenomenal so far, but like books warm up, and I feel like a good book should, like a movie, should capture you quickly. Obviously.
Oh, I give a book like 2 or 3 chapters.
Yeah, I know.
Like, if you don't have,
and you know quickly, like you're like, oh yeah, ooh, this is gonna be good. And so I'm reading. So ever since we went to our Optavia conference, Level Up, we saw John Maxwell speak, and I've never seen him speak. It's funny. I always knew about John Maxwell. It wasn't until I always knew about his name. I've seen stuff.
You've definitely.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. Like no, but he's one of those guys where it's like, oh yeah, I think I know that person, but I didn't really like know his body of work. It's like when you listen to a song and they're like, oh, they wrote this song too. Or
you hear like
or
like directors you hear a quote from someone and you're like, oh, that one's John Maxwell. Oh, that one's John Maxwell. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was a fan. I was like, I was knowing of the guy. I wasn't a fan of him. And so I became a fan, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I picked up this book. One of our mentors and coaches mentioned his.
Sorry, I was just gonna say 2 hours or however long.
30 minutes. It felt like 30 minutes.
He was like, but the amount of impact felt like 2 days.
Well, there's a pattern.
Like after he was done speaking, I was like tired because I was like, whoa. My brain.
Yes, your brain. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm reading this book called 16 Laws of Communication. It's one of his latest books, and it's so good. And already I'm reading it, and I'm like, the problem with a good book is it takes me longer to read. And that sounds like, what are you talking about? Because I keep stopping.
And you want to like get it.
And I want to be like, hold on, I need to like write this down. I need to share. And like the Enneagram 7, like fear of missing out, or like I want to share experiences.
Right.
So I'm constantly like being like, hold on, where's Sierra? I need to text her this. And then I'm like texting her, then I like get like, ooh, this is good too. And then before you know it, I'm just like, I read 3 pages.
Yeah. It is good. It's his newest book. It came out like mid-March or something.
I have so many notes. Like, guys, I'm not joking. Like, look at this.
Did you get scratched in the head with by the cat?
Probably. Where is it?
That looks brutal. Right here.
Oh, that's probably soccer, but it's probably the cat.
Soccer sounds cooler. You should. It does. You should go with that.
It does. Guys, like, look at this. They're right here. These are notes.
That's funny.
Look at that.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's all just ideas. Those are bullet points, by the way. Those are individual bullet points. Like, not joking. They're bullet points. And I would say half of those are like page 37, John Maxwell, second paragraph. Because I want to keep reading, but I don't want to forget where it's at.
Right.
So
that's funny.
And we talked about that yesterday too. Like, how do people like take notes? This works for me, but it took me a while to find it. Find like that rhythm.
I've always been a writer.
I remember.
Just have to write. But I'm a very
even as a child.
Mm-hmm. I'm a very kinesthetic learner though, so it's very hard for me to watch something and then like just do it. It's like I want to do it alongside you, and then I will be able to do it like with my whole body. Like it's very hard. So for learning writing, I just like have to write. I mean, even when we're in church or something, it's like I have to write. I can't. It's not that I'm not listening. It's like I can't act, if I just sit and listen, I'm not really probably hearing very much. But if I write a word down, it like deposits it.
Have you always been? So you've always been a writer. I remember. I'll never forget.
Always.
I've never really been a writer.
The classes in college I didn't do. So we were in that really weird college generation where when we started college, everybody was taking notes on paper. But by the time we graduated, more and more people were bringing computers to class.
But I remember it was taboo. Like
it was really weird.
It was like you were like the rebel.
Yeah, like if you brought your computer, people were like, I don't know. But like my last 2 semesters, pretty much everybody brought their laptops. And I remember being like, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do now. And I did terrible in those. I mean, I did fine in those classes, but compared to other classes, it was so hard for me to like understand the information.
Which, by the way, is ironic that it's so funny you think about that now, because in class, like, I don't know if that's distraction. They shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Play with Microsoft Paint?
Yeah.
Like it's like
what are you going to give it? There was nothing.
The internet barely worked then.
Yeah, like Facebook was like 2 years old. All you could do was poke people.
And like the idea of like good Wi-Fi, get out of here. There was no such thing as like good Wi-Fi in the dorm.
No, you couldn't get
classrooms. Wi-Fi. So the fact that there was like even thinking if today in 2023 someone brought a computer and I knew for a fact,
I'd be like, no, put that away.
But if their computer was like from 2005, I'd be like, I'm not sure what you're going to do with that besides like take notes. So
that's all you could do. But with that though, when I think about those classes, even if I typed out my notes, I would have to then go back, highlight, write down like in the margins. And like I still had to do it like my way. I just couldn't.
I honestly still never found a good rhythm. And like what I just showed you on my phone of the bullet points is like the best version of that. It's so embarrassing. And like I live by my calendar now pretty good, but I slip on that. But it's funny you say all that. That's always, I think it's a personality type thing too. I've always struggled with that because I remember complaining about like trying to like stay organized, whatever, when my mom or dad got me. You know those things where you pull the pin out and you had to like use the pen on the phone, like back in like 2000. This is like 2002 era still.
You got your first like Google phone in like 2008.
No, not Google phone. This is like it wasn't a phone. It was like a little like touchpad thing. It was really ghetto and you had to like push down on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay organized. And I don't think I have ever used it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
It sounds like The Remarkable, but bad.
It was like a bad version of The Remarkable. I remember just pushing.
Which, by the way, is the most amazing thing ever if you do like to write.
The problem I have is I set a reminder to go into something, and then I forget. I need a reminder to go look, which is why alarms are my friends.
Yeah, you used a lot of alarms. So this morning is a little different. We actually have 2 kids home right now because
fighting a little bit of a head cold.
I think they're fighting something because they both slept in. Like they're early risers and they both slept in.
Well, I was gonna say something too, but you like do not tolerate my man cold anymore. You're over it.
I'm so like you're a grown up.
Why is that?
Go take care of your own self.
I am taking care of myself, but I want to be like seen.
I don't care. I'm over it. It's like you guys think that I'm just feeling 100%. No, just get over it. I'm gonna take care of them. You got this.
I'll be like, oh,
I believe in you.
Oh, sick.
I believe in you. I know.
Where's my chicken noodle soup?
Like unless it's like very visible or like I think you have a fever or something. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you typically know because like if I'm like actually really really sick, like you'll see like very dramatic mood changes. Like I'll do something completely out of line with what I normally do. Like I'm not much of a nap. Like you know what I mean? Like no.
Oh, like a nap.
Like if I disappear and I'm like in bed, you're like, oh, he must be like not feeling good.
Yeah. Or just like the kids like sleeping in. Especially like they like school, so it's weird for them.
Yeah, they went to bed at like 8 and they slept until 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Or 9:20 even. Mm-hmm. So I think Chamberlain just woke up too.
She did. She just came down.
All right. And she's probably on the bed.
So it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Which means we'll have a different kind of day.
I was going to talk about something else with organ. Oh, I also wanted to just say, like, I remember going back to college days. Okay. I remember sitting in my office.
I feel really bad for eating you guys, but I'm like ravenous.
This is like morning.
I don't even have my coffee. I'm just like food.
She has her morning gallon of water. Show them that mug you have. That's crazy.
It's only 40.
It's only 40.
40 ounces.
Big gulps, huh? No, I remember sitting. So I worked at this nonprofit called Gateways for Youth and Families, and I had my little office. And I remember
there.
it was like my version of the library.
There. I got you a job there.
Yes, but I remember sitting there like later at night one time because I had had a computer. I had to work there for like my college essays because you go home to like beer pong. Hello,
it was quiet there.
There's no way I'm gonna like focus on my 25-page essay when I have like music and beer pong.
Someone make a mojitos and getting ready to watch Lost.
Get ready to watch Lost and have a good time. And I'm like, no, we watched a lot of Lost.
Much Lost.
I remember sitting there. I procrastinated.
Lost in Planet Earth.
It was my senior year. I remember this is the most. Everyone has like you feel overwhelmed, and then you look back and you're like, that was overwhelming when I had 1 page due in high school.
You have like 1 to 5 pages in high school.
All right, guys.
You get to college, they're like 25 to 45.
By the end of the week, we're going to have 2 paragraphs. We're like, oh.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'd be like, done. You'll be like, done before I even left the room. But anyhow, I remember being like, I had 3 25 to 30 page, 25 minimum, 25 to 30 page.
I remember.
So I had 75 pages.
You waited you waited until like the last 48 hours to write all these.
Yeah, I wrote 70 plus pages. And guys, the internet sucked back then. AI didn't exist. Nowadays, I am like, these mother puckers are like, ChatGPT, write me a sophisticated with 25 sources. No, that's what you can do. You can literally because it's all sourced. Like but there's no way for them to check.
But they can't do that because like the most like up to date information on there is like 2019 or something, or 2015 or something.
I'm sure. I hope, but
like the information that's sourced.
Fine. The first kids to use it.
So you could not use it for science.
Yeah, but the first kids to use maybe not science, but this is communications.
Oh.
No. We had sources.
Yeah, Zach went to college. He has a degree.
Can you believe that, though? Can you believe that?
Our experiences were so different because of what you went for. Like, I had to really study, and I actually passed my classes to get to the next class.
I had to really study.
No, you didn't. You didn't even learn how to take notes until like 2 years ago when you started like reading books.
Oh, my gosh.
It's true. It's okay. Don't be ashamed.
I would have been like, that would have been so amazing.
I know. I remember.
But I needed to go through that pain.
So I was a teacher assistant, and I had I had the pleasure of reading and grading statistical papers, because that's what you want to do in college. You just want to like so bad. So anyway, during that time, I would, in those papers, when students would have to write, 15 to 25 pages or whatever of some research study, I took those classes, whatever. And then when I became the teacher's assistant, then I had to read all of the papers and grade them before the professor would read them. And it was like, I think now and in high school, it's like, okay, you got to read these 2 chapters before tomorrow. And I would be like, 10 pages, no. And here I am sitting in my apartment having to read probably 150 pages a night.
That's insane.
It was just like when I think about doing that, I'm like, what?
It's amazing.
Why did I do that? I wasn't getting paid.
It's amazing. Honestly.
I was just trying to get a pass or fail grade, and I had to read all these. But it made me a better writer. I would say that I would attribute a lot of my ability to edit or write or whatever to just that. And probably why, when you write, because you had to write like 70 pages in 2 days, why you add so many extra words to things is because you were just trying to take up space. Yeah.
I was trying to
so Zach still writes exactly like he talks with words like.
Like?
Yeah, with extra words to make it long. And I go and he's like, Sarah, can you look at this and edit it real quick? And I'll be like, delete. Dude,
which is why so I'm
funny.
reading 16 Laws of Communication. Yeah, I have the skill, just not I have the ability, but not always the refined skill.
It's not bad. It's just it's just funny, the different experiences.
Effective. Yes. Well, it's funny. It could be unpopular opinion on this whole like working for free concept, but I understand that you don't want like child labor. So I understand there's nuances and it takes wisdom and discipline and discernment around this topic. But there is value in like unpaid or low paid internships because I think about it like
100%.
I mean, I thought about even like when I first started, like I would have like we're in this house, and a lot of the things we've had is because of like the willingness to do something, do more than what I was paid for.
Oh yeah,
and then one might say, well, like we need, and I understand like the fight for equal pay for equal work. But at the same time, for young kids, like that is the one time.
Yeah, for young people, I think you do. I think
it creates this entitlement. I remember thinking like I was worth.
Yeah, it creates like such a really great work ethic and a really great foundation of learning to exceed expectations.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
because that for those jobs at Gateways, man, we were doing things
for like $12 an hour.
For $12 an hour.
We were doing like organizational development, scaling organizations, putting on massive events.
I was putting on
marketing,
big events and marketing and fundraising and grant writing. And like, when I'm like, what? I can't even believe I was able to learn those skills or do that at 20 years old.
And I was working with like severe at-risk youth, like from drug addicted families.
Yeah, I mean,
it was crazy.
It was wild. But pushing through that, like, those times and those skills that we learned, it's like those, number one, when we got real jobs, we always think, man, if we could go back there now, it would be just so crazy because there'd be so many things that we actually wouldn't do.
Well, we had a lot of resources that we didn't realize were resources too.
But I mean, knowing what we are actually worth now, we would go back and be like, I'm not doing that, but you can get someone else to do that, and I'm going to actually focus my energy here. However, we wouldn't have that knowing or the breadth of what we are capable of had we not gone through that grind. I mean, it was...
Hold on, bud.
There's things I feel that people need to have experience working in.
Yeah.
If you don't work for a nonprofit at some point in your life, you have to be a server. And if you aren't a server at some point in your life, you need to be a barista.
Yeah, like working at the Key Arena.
Those three things. It's like you have to have like those, just a different, like, it gives you just different perspective of, serving people who are paying you, and then serving people who may be underrepresented or underprivileged or whatever. It's like, what?
No, there's tremendous value in that. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable actually what's possible through that experience. But I also was thinking about when we were at that not-for-profit, how many resources we had we didn't realize were resources. Like if we wanted to, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
we had access to vehicles, vans. I had a whole wood shop, like tractor. Like we had a lot of things. It's like we just didn't know what was possible with those resources, and it got me thinking actually of the sermon that we listened to last week about he used that example of the guitar, like an instrument in the wrong hands can only do so much, right? And putting the instrument in the right hands, like you could like sing music. And I think that instrument taught us a lot, but it wasn't probably in the most power. I'm not saying like, they could have done more with like people that really knew a lot, but they also probably would have had to pay for that as well.
That was it. It was a nonprofit. They couldn't afford anyone else.
And they even cut our pay.
And they cut our pay and our hours.
And they cut our pay.
They were like, we're going to pay you less. Also, we're going to cut your hours, and you still have to do the same amount of things.
Thinking back on it, it makes sense though. But no,
that's what weeded us out. That's why we left. That's why we ended up leaving. It was a recession.
No, but I didn't think about that. Now you just said that, I'm like, that was literally 2008. And that actually kickstarted the search to the career work. That makes sense now. Before I was like, what?
Yeah, I went from there to the
my
gym.
head wasn't. Yeah. Well, because when you're 20, when you're 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old, whatever you were.
Well, we were in the home buying market or anything like that. We were fresh out of college, and people were hiring cheap labor. So at that point, we were actually in a pretty good spot.
I wish there was a way to contact those people.
So it's really interesting.
Do you guys have people in your life that played such a pivotal role in your development, career, childhood, that you kind of want to talk to him again. What was that guy's name? James? He guy who was like my right hand man. We were kind of friends.
William?
Was it William? Yeah, William. I want to know where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know his last name.
Yeah, I didn't work with him. I worked by myself in a back office. It was very depressing.
Yeah.
It was so quiet. I just worked in a different building than everybody else. Remember, I would just like come up and bug everyone. Be like, what you guys doing? What you guys doing in this building? Because I seriously worked in a building.
We're like playing
They're
pool.
Like partying with the teenagers, and I'm like in the back. I was seriously in a back building by myself.
The only time we called Sierra up is when we like, Sierra, we have like a 13-year-old like breaking things, and we call the cops, and he's
cops
like,
on their way. We need
some backup.
Administration.
We need some backup because this guy is losing his mind. And give some grace because these were very troubled youth, but it was still very challenging. I mean, it was at risk youth and families.
That was the only time I was invited.
Yeah. Good times. Fun to reminisce. Yeah.
Oh man.
So, how do we organize now? I feel like, speaking of, I feel like the topic today have been like just inspiration, organization, growth, development. I feel like now we've found a really good rhythm with each other as a couple. But
what?
Just in terms of like our working organizational flow, I feel like every new relationship goes through that like kind of that tension period where
it's been, let's think. It's been maybe 3.5 full weeks since you have left your job.
Yep.
And us are focused on just health coaching and relationship coaching, and the workshop coming up in 2 weeks. And I feel like we have found the things that we are good at, and we acknowledged each other last week. I think it was during coaching couples call, but just there are certain things that are your strengths. There's certain things that are my strengths. And good old John Maxwell was like sharing how if you're about to do something and you do have a strength somewhere, don't just rest on it, but actually stretch it, like stretch that strength of yours. And I feel that we have been doing that.
Yeah. And I think even you saying that before you hopped on today, there's a few things I'm like, I want to quote unquote do. And you know what, it's really present for me through the last couple of weeks. I shared this with you a little bit. It's ironic that the things that you're best at, there's a little bit of insecurity in the background, because at least for me, because you're good at it, it doesn't feel as hard. Like sometimes you have to, how do I say this? Sometimes you justify doing more when you feel like you're working hard.
Right.
And I feel guilty. Like, oh my gosh, Sierra's doing way more than I'm just like this guy on the side that's doing like 10% to her 90%. And then your response is like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, I honestly still don't believe all
these things. I had to like name all these things that would not have happened if Zach had not been doing what he needs to be doing.
But for me, it doesn't feel.
But it doesn't feel that way because it's a natural skill you have. Whereas for me, it's like, oh no, this is more natural for me to kind of fall and do this type of stuff.
Like you said, and
you're like, oh, that looks like a lot of work, and I'm like, oh, it's actually.
And I look at you just like,
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, just no.
Yeah, like okay, that is nice. It's good that we do have similar skills also, but it is nice that there are certain skills that make me want to throw up that you can do no problem. And yeah, that's good.
Well, actually, you know where it's kind of fun, where it becomes play? It's kind of like
whoa. She's early. I'm gonna call her back. Okay, I gotta call her back because I have an appointment with her in 4 minutes.
Oh, okay. We'll be really quick.
Yeah,
I'll wrap it up this way.
So I can call her back.
I will say this, is like any sort of game or sport we're gonna play, where because you're so skilled, you allow me to like play basketball with you and kind of fun. I still enjoy it. Like there's certain things you're doing in your realm of organization and development that I'm like, ooh, this is kind of fun, but I don't have like the strength and willpower to stay in it as long as you do. So when I need to step out and go do what I'm naturally good at, I can still have the freedom to do that.
Right.
But I think your skill and my skill, and just like you, like I schedule these meetings, you're able to kind of come into that world and play.
Right.
But it's not like you want to spend all day.
Right, it's a good skill that you have.
But we're able to, I think, cross. We're able to multi-thread with each other.
Yes.
I like that word, multi-thread.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, this is a fun
Interwoven.
Interwoven. When two become one.
Yeah. Well, I gotta go.
You gotta go.
I have to go, y'all.
Speaking of appointments.
We are gonna go.
So we'll see you then, or we'll see you tomorrow.